Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next project tutorial. This is going to cover using the Adobe app Adobe Bridge. So in the previous projects we were working on the exposure triangle, and a lot of issues that you might have run into is after you take the picture and put it on your computer, it's hard to tell what the settings are. It doesn't display on the computer exactly what your exposure settings were when you took the photo, but Adobe Bridge will help us out with that, and we're going to go over using Adobe Bridge right now. So I'm going to give you some exercise files. So remember to click on this link to download the exercise files. I'll walk you through downloading another right now. So when you click on the zip file, it opens like this. There's nothing you can download yet until you click this set of dots right here that says More Actions. Click that and do Open a New Window. When you open a new window, it will open like this with your little profile and the option to download the files. So you'll click download. It may or may not say the files are large, and then if it does, just click download anyway, but it's fine, just download the files. So now I can close this tab, back to the project. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to save those files out of our downloads folder into a project folder, and then we'll start with Adobe Bridge. So let's open our Finder, and let's go to our downloads. And here's our downloaded files. Remember, they always download as a zip folder, which is this icon with the zipper. To unzip it, you just double click on it. And when you double click on it, it opens a blue folder with the exact same name. This is where your exercise files actually are, right here. So you can see those are my files. This one is no longer needed, so this one you could put in the trash. So let's move this into a project folder on our Google Drive, as we always do, so they're backed up to the drive and not stuck in the downloads folder. So to open a second window, remember if you just click on them, nothing happens. To open a second window, you have to right click on it with your middle finger and then go up to a new Finder window, and that opens the second one. So now we can move this out of the way. You need to have two Finder windows open in order to transfer files back and forth, to drag and drop. You need to have two windows. So this one will be in our Google Drive, in My Drive, and your Intro to Graphics folder that you made at the beginning of class. So here's all our project folders that we've made so far in this class. We've been working on the exposure triangle, where you saved your pictures that you took with your camera. So let's make a new folder. Right click, new folder, and this one's called Adobe Bridge. And it's lesson 305 if you want to add that as well. Perfect. So now let's add our folder with the exercise files to here. So I'm going to open this one. I'm going to take this blue folder and just drag and drop it right in there. Save it to my Google Drive, yes. So now my files are nice and safe. They've been moved out of the downloads folder and into here. So now I can find them in Adobe Bridge. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to open Bridge, and we're going to make sure it's synced to our Google Drive so we can see the exercise files. So let's open Bridge. That's this one we bookmarked at the beginning of class, this BR1. If you didn't bookmark it or you forgot to add it, make sure you go to the Launchpad and look for this one right here that says Adobe Bridge. Okay, so we're going to click on it to open it. It's going to jump up and down saying, yay, I got picked. And it'll start showing you your files. It may look different on your home page. It might look like this with the file folders. There's nothing to edit in Adobe Bridge. It's not any kind of editing software. It's purely a software that allows us to view files and the data on those files. So your folder icons might be small. If they're too small for you, you can come to this slider right here and adjust it. See how if I drag this slider, it makes the icons bigger. So make it as big as you want to help you in your viewing mode. But let's make sure we're on our Google Drive. So to find that, if yours looks like this or like this or like this, make sure you're on the one that says your username. If you come over here, as you're logged into the computer, it'll have your username, and then look for Google Drive. When you double click on Google Drive, it might ask you for permissions. Just click allow. That's fine. And if you don't see the Google Drive, please let me know, because maybe your computer got out of sync or something. So if you're not seeing the Google Drive option, please raise your hand and I will come help you try to find it or come up with a solution. All right, let's go to our drive and let's look for our Intro to Graphics folder, which is for me right here. Intro to Graphics, this one. So here's the folder I just made a moment ago, Bridge, and here's those exercise files right here. So here's those 10 files that I gave you. All I need you to do, this is a very easy project, is you just need to tell me what the exposure settings are for each of these photos. And Bridge will help us out with that. So if you go back to the classroom assignment, click on the classwork slides. This is, as always, where you will put your name and period at the beginning. And this is a brief explanation of what we're working on. So each photo, you can find the exposure settings right here. Everything we've been practicing. Here's the aperture, here's the ISO, and here's the shutter, all found in this little square window right here. So if you scroll down, I've given you each of these exercise files. So here's the first one with Spider Samurai, Grandpa and his kid, graduation. All of these files, they were all taken at different exposure settings. And again, this is what I've talked about, depending on how much light you have. So this one was taken in daylight. That one's easy. This one was also daylight. This one was at night, so I had to compensate with a flash. This one was a nice cloudy day, but I wanted a lot in focus. This was inside. This was at night as well. So again, you'll see all the different kinds of exposure settings you have to deal with as a photographer. As your lighting changes, you have to change to compensate to make sure your photo looks good and it's not too bright and not too dark, or capturing objects in motion like this, like she was moving really fast when she pitched. So to find the settings is super easy. Go to Bridge and click on the photo. When you click on the photo, you'll see it pop up over here in a preview, and here's all your information right here. This little box shows all of that stuff. So remember, the aperture, the ISO, and the shutter. These three numbers right here are what you need. Remember, the aperture is the focus, or the f-stop. So this is the aperture. The aperture is 2.8. So on the slide where it says aperture, you're going to just put 2.8. That's the aperture. And then go to the next one. The ISO. The ISO is the easiest one. It says right here, ISO. ISO is 160. 160. And then lastly is the shutter. Remember, the shutter is fractions of a second, so it's this fraction number right here. So this one, the shutter was 1/400th. 1/400. And that's it. So you can see a low aperture means shallow focus. He's in focus, background's blurry. ISO is nice and low because it's daylight, and I needed a faster shutter to let in less light because the sun was so strong. And that's all you're going to do for all of these pictures. Just click on each one. If I click on Grandpa and his kid, here we go right here. Here's my other settings. Aperture, ISO, shutter speed. Make sure you're putting the correct ones in the correct spot. If you're putting them in the wrong spot, if you mix up aperture and shutter, you will not get full credit. It's not a very difficult assignment. All you got to do is tell me the settings for every single one of these pictures and put it on the slideshow. And then when you're done, you can then turn in the assignment. That's it. Okay? Have fun and let me know if you have any questions.